Hi, good evening, everyone. Hope you had a interesting session so far. We could chat up with some of you in the pre-function area just before this, and it was amazing, the kind of conversations which were flowing. So it's always good to be back attending these functions in person and not the webinars that we all got used to during pandemic. So let me first begin by thanking all the panelists here. It's not every day that you're on a stage where all the industry stalwarts are there on one stage. So I'm very honored to be moderating this panel today. As you would have seen the overall agenda, today we are going to talk about something very, very interesting. So we are going to talk about how do you actually make hybrid work actually work? And if that is the case, what does it mean from the technologies associated with it, especially on endpoint management? So that's a topic which comes up in a lot of conversations that we have with our clients. And there is a lot of interesting work happening there. So today we have the leaders of the industry from across sectors here to share their experiences on the subject with you. So can we have a warm applause to welcome all the panelists? Thank you so much, sir, for being here. Sure, no problem. Thank you. All right, so let me just get this going, and maybe we can go it one by one. Let me first start with saying when we hear about endpoint management, we hear about the hybrid work, cloudified work. We hear a lot of terms, and sometimes we don't know where to start, where to stop. So just wanted to start this conversation by asking the panel, and because of time, I'll probably go in open fashion. I think any one of you can take it, and then others can add. So first, I wanted to understand from you, when we talk about hybrid work, what are the kind of innovations that you have seen evolve over the last 2-3 years?
Hi, good evening. Interesting one. So I think the world has changed suddenly for all of us just in the last 2.5 years. And this topic has gained significance. Because earlier we were under the safe confines of our offices where we work. And with the pandemic, suddenly we were all confined to our houses. So which meant things have to evolve. And endpoint has to also evolve. And that's where most of the innovations have come. So the way I see is that there is now a large amount of artificial intelligence, AI, and machine learning technologies which are now being captured for the endpoint. And that's primarily because of the security concerns. Because gone are the days that all my endpoints were behind my corporate firewall most of the time. Hence, I could rely on the normal traditional security methods, processes. Now these endpoints are out in the world. They're in various form factors, used by both my in-house and my outsourced contractors. So keeping them secured all the time has become necessary. Hence, these innovations have come in the area of security. So that's what I see, that the innovations have come in. So now you see more of a proactive approach. Before bad actors can act, those tools or solutions through those innovative approach are able to block them or prevent them from those executions.
Thank you. No, that's a good way to open that session and say it's not just what you think it is. There are a lot of progress that has happened. All the leading technologies are here, and it's super important right now. It's like defending one fort versus now you have a beachhead in every home, and obviously you need much more. So that brings me to another question. So when we talk about future of hybrid work, traditionally we think of employees, right? But frankly, the future is not the FTE model anymore. When you look at the talent strategies of organizations, we look at FTE, classical. We look at project workers, job workers, consultants, advisors, and so on and so forth. So the talent, of course, is not tightly coupled with the organization the way it was earlier. So therefore, when we talk about hybrid work, endpoint management, the lens of saying, okay, fine, I'm defending this for my employee or I'm designing it for my employee, that model doesn't work anymore. So I just want to understand how the entire future of hybrid work overlaps with future of talent, if any one of you would like to take that.
Okay. Hope everyone can hear me okay. So I think today we are in a very interesting point in time, both in terms of challenges, in terms of opportunities, and what has been dished to us in terms of all the entire COVID phenomenon. And I think today it is amalgamation of, as the question is, people who want to provide service doesn't necessarily need to be an FTE employee. I mean, he could be on a per project basis, he could be a freelancer, and we keep hearing about the new thing of like, of moonlighting, of double doing and all of that, right? So I think as an organization and as the security and IT paraphernalia, you need to have a framework, policies. At the same time, you can't discount on the flexibility that an employee should enjoy. So it is about whether it is a BYOD paradigm, whether it is an enterprise given devices, any type of devices, any place, any time, you need to ensure that people are empowered with the same set of access, applications and data, irrespective and obviously based on RBACs, right, which is a classical role-based access control. You need to provide all of that, ensure that you are within your security paradigm, and at the same time, you should be able to kill all access at any point in time if that project is over, if the person is no longer with the organization, or is accessing data that he probably shouldn't. So today the challenge is multifold, but obviously there are solutions from a whole host of people, including the likes of HP, which is like, a part of the program here, in terms of what an enterprise brings to the table. So there are a whole bunch of solutions, and I think today you need to understand what solutions work for you tactically as well as what's your strategic point of view. So I think it is both challenging, but at the same time we have solutions, and as far as you have a good model in play and you are able to think through like what my IT parlance looks like for 5 years, if not more, then I think you are in good stead to terms of tackling the whole hybrid and work from home and other such models.
Absolutely. Anybody wants to add? It's an open forum, so feel free to step in.
Let me add to this perspective. Since you talked about innovation and we are talking, this whole forum is about innovation and all. So innovation has a starting point, but never can be an ending point. Innovation always starts when the thought comes into your mind. Enabling workforce is, we have seen how it has been transitioned in the last 2-3 years. Now, working on a desktop when people were there sitting in the office, after that the parameter got changed, people moved to whatever they want. I mean, I had in 2019 and 20, I had people sitting in Manali and sitting in Goa. They booked room for 3-4 months and have been working from there and servicing the organization and delivering all the results. So what was expected out of that? I mean, how do we see that where it is going? This kind of a culture was never there in India. People might have heard about it because it was always there outside. But this was the first time when we have seen all these kind of a culture. But the expectation of a particular individual was always like that I should get a seamless experience. Now, when we got into COVID and got into pandemic and the lockdown started, people didn't even knew that what need to be done, and we were not different from anybody else. We also realized that there is an importance of bringing in new technology, bringing in new solutions to provide a seamless experience to everybody, whether it is the sales force, whether it is the support staff, which is HR, finance, and other people in the organization, that they need to be catered and they need to be given the similar kind of an experience, the similar kind of technologies through which they will be able to deliver result for the organization. Security always played a very important role, but I will come on to security at a later stage, but let's talk about technology which helped enable business deliver the results for the organization. So when we got into that, we realized that it's not about providing laptop to user will only solve the problem. It is about enabling those laptops to provide a seamless experience to users, whether it is related to a particular application, whether along with that, meeting the requirement of the organization as well, because there are certain policies and guidelines you have, which you have to meet. And on top of it, there are regulatory guidelines which you can't breach just because in the name of COVID. So all of things have to be mapped together and then give the experience. So I still remember one of the discussion I was having with one of my CMO. He's not there in the organization currently. So when we provided access to of email when we provided access of email on mobile phones, so I asked him to install MDM, and he was like, "Why? This is my device, and I do not want to install it." You cannot force me to do that, but if you want me to deliver business into that, you have to come up with an innovative solution. I will not give you an opportunity to use my data, which is stored in my device, and you are not even confirming that it will not be accessed by anything else. Now, unfortunately, due to some restriction, we couldn't prove that out, and we had to do that, but we had to find an alternative to deliver that out. So, took us time to deliver that, but I'm talking, why I give this example is because of the thought process of individual. Today, the workforce does not want flexibility. They want similar kind of experience on all the across the platform, irrespective of the device they use, whether it is mobile phone, whether it is tablet, whether it is laptop, or whether it is desktop. They want all the data sync in a real time, so that they should be able to give you meaningful result for the organization and increase revenue or whatever you call it. But that's something which that's the expectation of an individual today. Now, how do you deliver it? I mean, we had a lot of challenge at that point of time, and then we realized that we have to embed security. When we all moved onto different kind of a platform, we did not have any control. Then the enablement and bringing up the policy came into the picture. You started adopting cloud-based solution, which enables security through cloud-based. So instead of having servers and pushing clients onto all the machines, we thought of deploying something which is cloud agnostic. So immediately with a click of change, the policy get deployed on all the machines, irrespective of the device and the platform, and you're still able to meet all the regulatory requirements. So that kind of a experience people were expecting, and it still continues to be today. The hybrid model is going to continue. We will still see people going to the office, but expectation of an individual has changed, I would say not even 360 degree beyond that. Today, they don't expect to provide you only a machine or with certain application. Their expectation is no disturbance, nothing and then it becomes our responsibility or the technology people's responsibility to deliver that.
Yes, that's true. That's true. I think you brought out a very important point. So when we talk about endpoint management, it's a very delicate balance, and it will be interesting to hear the views from other panelists as well. What is that right balance between, let's say, your employee experience, cyber security, of course, the degree of control that you can have and the defenses that you have, and of course, ease of use. So it's a very delicate balance, right? You are in one side and the other element gets impacted. So what are your views on that?
Sure. So I think cybersecurity is given. I mean, definitely we are looking at endpoint to protect us. But more than this, I think it's also the IT operations. How we are improving the efficiency of our teams through these systems. And for example, we are pushing out all the updates to all users, which are spread across places. Without having them really update the apps, everything gets pushed to them. All of a sudden, they say, everything is up to date for them. So that's a lot of efficiency which comes into the organization. And at the same time, as we see, it's not just a laptop or a desktop. Now, we are actually moved on to multiple devices. Now we're talking about Chromebooks. We're talking about, these attacks can not just be limited to this, but it can go to, like, say, printers, or we say medical devices. We are talking about, close to, 3 billion IoT devices right now, which is equivalent to the, PCs or laptops, or it's going to 15 billion in some years. So we are actually talking about something new coming up for us, which is IoT device, which is everywhere. I think all that coverage and the seamless experience, I think that really is going to be the key with the. I think we need more of a unified endpoint management in the coming time.
Sure. Thank you so much for that. And that brings me to another dimension, and Rajiv, you have seen many more such waves pass through in the technology world over so many years. So just want to take your thoughts. Some people say that we have come quite far as far as hybrid work is concerned. Some others say you haven't seen anything yet. So in your view, in the next maybe 3 to 5 years, what are the kind of themes that you expect to play out when we talk about hybrid work overall?
So the term hybrid world came into force when the pandemic went into some time from that, because before that, all of a sudden we had to give everybody work from home or work from remote, as we call. So the first challenge I think every IT leader had to face was provide access of applications and services right at the homes of all the employees or consultants or our extended partner ecosystem. Now, the challenge there was the moment we did that, one, we were exposing our data across we don't know where, because we are beyond the firewall boundaries. Second, obviously, the cyber security, I think, landscape started transforming. The attacks started becoming very sophisticated, because even in the, I think, the criminal world, the need to target the digital world became very prominent, because physically people were not present. So I think they turned their attention towards digital world. It's paying them well, because if you see the amount of money being siphoned off is running into billions of dollars worldwide, if you see, through these frauds and various hackers working on that. Now, coming to an organization like ours, we have different type of work regiments, I would say. So we have people who are doing sales, people of two types. One is the newspaper sale, one is the advertising sale. Then we have the entire digital systems to support those types of sales. Thankfully, we had it before even we went into this lockdowns. What helped us was, earlier people were very averse to using remote systems. The digital transformation was forced once this lockdowns happened, and people actually adopted and started liking it. I remember one of our senior colleague even wondering, why do people use Microsoft Teams? So, and let's do an audio bridge. But the moment we explained to him Microsoft Teams, and then when this happened, all this lockdown, he said this has enhanced his productivity many folds, because he can do much more thing from home now than what he was able to do in office earlier. So the productivity parameters changed. The type of work, like if you say editorial guys, they are creative. They don't want to be bound down by certain like restrictions. So we had to give them completely unburdened type of access while security being there. So security also moved from on-prem perimeter sort to cloud. Today we have proxy sitting in cloud. Anybody who wants to access enterprise application has to go through VPN, multi-factor authentications before they can start accessing. These were not there earlier. Like very few, even only the regulated industries were using it, not the normal, any big organization. So now, almost I think every organization has started using it on this. Yes, and next move is everything moved to mobile. So not just having laptops or desktop or getting a remote protocols accessing the official machines onto your home, but now people want their applications onto mobile also. But HR is also getting smarter. Now I had demands from HR. They want to have an attendance system where they can geotag the employee from where they are giving their even attendance. So I think technology is running either way. And data is becoming a bit of a challenge because now you don't know what data to be given at home, what not to be given home. So the secrecy or the data security is becoming a challenge. That's why I see a lot of financial institute not allowing people to work from home, especially banks. They did allow for some times, but now they have asked people to be back. So yes, there is a complete transformation, I would say, in the hybrid. Even today, 30 to 40% of people are coming to office and rest are working from remote. And I think that's going to be the norm going forward because that's how people have got used to and they see productivity not being impacted too much on this.
Thank you. You want to add to that? Sure.
I'll quickly add one more dimension which was asked in terms of where we are on the hybrid cloud journey, right? I strongly believe that we are at a very early curve, early traction stage. The reason for that is today we are happy if there is a hybrid, we are moving to the cloud, migration, moved apps and stuff, but that's just one direction of it. What about dynamic hybrid cloud, load management on multiple hyper accelerators, GCP and stuff, depending on cost paradigms? And how about if I want to backtrack and come back to on-prem for whatever set of reasons? Today I have a whole bunch of hardware that I have kind of put money on, which is going to go waste. And I want to have the flexibility to do cloud burst and use spikes for getting onto cloud. Rest of it, classical apps, I still want to retain my on-prem flexibility and be able to switch on and off based on how I want my unit metrics and cost to be. So I think there is a whole bunch of dynamism that's going to come into play. And then there are going to be hardware as a SaaS provider, third party whom I can dip into, depending on whether it is a CPU or a GPU mix and the compute and workload that I have in play. So I think there is a whole bunch of metering that is potentially possible. Today we are not even at that level. Today we are at a very, very initial basic in terms of just kind of ensure some of your workload and apps are moving to cloud, pick AWS or Azure at best case scenario and a fallback with GCP as a second play, right? So very, very early days yet, but I think it is going to be interesting and challenging and lot more talent opportunity as well.
Thank you. So now I think let me take the view from the other side of the spectrum, right? So Shobhit, you have heard the clients speak, the industry speak in terms of how they see this evolving. And to the point which was just being mentioned, right, in terms of in a world where everything is a service, I'm sure there are innovations around device as a service and so on. So just want to understand your point of view and how do you see those innovations going forward?
Yeah, thanks. So device as a service has been a buzzword for donkey years, and we did not see much traction in India, honestly. It was always a boardroom discussion, and I think most customers would have evaluated it at some point or the other, but nobody bite the bullet. That was primarily because it was always seen as a leasing solution or a capex to opex solution, and so it never made sense financially. However, I think post the pandemic and in a hybrid work environment, there is suddenly a lot of traction which is happening on device as a service. And we won a device as a service deal in a banking organization. We won in a public sector organization. Now, these are the organizations you would never think of buying device as a service. And I think there are broadly three kind of organizations which could leverage a model like this. One is the organizations who, and before that, I would want to clarify that device as a service is a more holistic solution which covers procurement, management in a hybrid environment, and disposal. And what we have traditionally been doing in India is managed services, which is just the middle piece, right? And so organizations are looking at how can we give all the three pieces. So there are three kind of broad type of organizations which would benefit from something like that. One is where attrition is a big challenge. And when I say attrition, I'm not talking about employee in general, but the attrition in the IT teams. This is because most people, young people at least, when they join the organization in IT teams, they have expectations of managing cloud, application, networking. And if you give them something like endpoint management or break-fix support, they are not interested. And so the trend is that you outsource it to an organization. So for example, a technician, when he joins HP, he knows this is what he's going to do. He has no wrong expectations. So we would comparatively be in a better position from that perspective, so that you focus, the customers focus on the high value chain of the activities, and device as a service vendor focuses on the low value. The second is organizations which are focusing on employee experience. Our whole strategy is built around why failures happen. So in traditional sense, we used to measure the performance of IT teams or the FMS vendor basis how quickly they responded to a failure. But in these times of employee experience, even a failure is a problem. Because if my laptop is down for 2 hours, you would have done a great job by fixing it in 2 hours in a hybrid environment. But as a user, I feel terrible, right? And then God forbid my laptop goes bad again after 5 days. There's a big problem in hand. And so second is where the company's focus is on employee experience. And this is where we deploy tools which will work on proactive support rather than reactive support. So before the failures happen, we fix it. And the third kind of organizations are those which want to align themselves to a larger goals of sustainability, security, operational efficiency, lower TCO. Because what happens in a general sense, we are so busy in our lives on fixing things that some of these things in the endpoint management do not get the right charter, which is a forward-looking view. And so if any of those themes are there, then we help organizations through device as a service, help them achieve their sustainability goals, operational efficiencies, and so on and so forth. So I think these are really interesting times, and we are seeing a lot of traction on that way.
Thank you so much, Shobhit. I think that was a very comprehensive view on what technology providers are doing, HP in particular, of course, to respond to the emerging opportunities and how are you driving change. So quite amazing to hear what you all have been working on. So for the audience which is here, I'll be jumping into a rapid fire question and answer mode. But if you have a question, you won't get a chance to get a view from some of the senior most industry leaders. So this is your opportunity. Raise your hand and we'll get that question answered. So before that, while audience is figuring out their questions, let me get into a rapid fire mode. Any one of you can answer 15-second tops. So let me start. What are 2 typical pitfalls or mistakes that you have seen organizations do when they get into this journey of endpoint management or hybrid work?
I think one is definitely trying to adopt too many solutions from very different OEMs. Because then manageability becomes a problem. I'll leave the second one to the other panel.
Perfect.
The other thing is the scope. We have to define the scope of what we want to do the coverage in terms of in the endpoint management. So our expectation is to be clear.
Perfect.
Underestimate security and overestimate security. Analysis paralysis.
Finding that sweet spot is always hard. Okay. Next rapid fire question. Any one company or service provider which is doing innovative work in this space? Of course, you know HP. So if I was to ask Shobhit, he will say HP. But overall, any organization, any global organization which has done any innovative work, any names that come to your mind in hybrid work, delivery, or endpoint management? Any ones that you would like to mention?
It would be Zoom for me.
Yeah, absolutely. We should have bought their stock just before the COVID hit us. Our wealth would have zoomed, but yeah, you're absolutely right. Third quick question is that many of the, I would say, mid-tier organizations may not have fully walked this journey on hybrid work, right? What will be your 1 or 2 words of advice to them? And as they sort of go through this journey beyond the standard Teams and Zooms of the world. 1 or 2 things that they should keep in mind.
I would recommend don't just go by words and don't adopt too early. So experience the product first and before adopting it. And then the second piece is don't go by word is don't think that if somebody has adopted it, it is the best fit for your organization. So you need to evaluate thoroughly and then only go for it. Otherwise, it will be a disaster.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, if I may add, I think you must also classify your users. You know, you have different classes of users, and there cannot be one fit solution for them.
Perfect. Thank you. So let me also now turn to the audience. We have about just a minute or two left. Any questions from the audience that you want to ask the panelists? You can name the panelists you can ask that question to, or you can open the question and we'll answer it. Yes, please. Can we get a mic there, please, to this gentleman?
In the meanwhile, I can ask it quickly here.
Yes, of course. Please go ahead.
In terms of measuring end user satisfaction, what have you put in place which helps you to know that your end users are definitively satisfied or not? Because the moment of truth is on a daily basis. So it's to any of the panelists, any innovative steps which you've undertaken.
One of the things I also want to add is that we saw that this is a problem with a lot of customers. And what happens is normally surveys happen, let's say once a year, you send a form and there is a 15-minute. And what happens is only those users respond who had a bad experience. So your survey results are very biased. And a happy user doesn't respond, and an unsatisfied user gives horrible reviews. So what we do is, what we are doing is that we create, and also the problem is who wants to spend 15 minutes on a survey. So what we do is that we think that this should be a year-round exercise. So what we do is we bring these pop-ups on the right screen, and at one point of time only one question would be asked. And then we work with customers that when is you want the next question. It may be 15 days later, 30 days later. And you ask very specific question. You also can customize it. I want to do it only for users who had an experience, application failure experience, a hardware issue. So you can customize those. And it's a year-long journey, and all questions do not come at one point of time. And there are pop-ups, and you can click and respond within 2 seconds. So nobody feels I'm going to waste time.
Correct, correct. No, we are all now into micro experiences.
I think even even the calls that you get on service desk, that very well define where are you placed. So surveys apart, these are actually the core parameters that we look into on that.
Perfect. We had the gent in the front.
Yeah, hi, thank you. So thank you to each one of you for wonderful insights and sharing your thoughts, very helpful. So my question is to Pawan, who was quoting the example of the CMO and the mobile app MDM, right? So you mentioned that you provided an alternate solution where the personal mobile could not be used and all that. So what was that? We were just interested to know that, and how do you ensure that that data is still encrypted and all that?
See, I'll not name the solution because I'm not here to promote any technology, but I'll tell you that what I have done, and I'll connect with you separately to talk about it. It is all about user experience and get a perspective on it. Generally what happens is people get stick to technologies, and they just know, if you talk about technology, they have a perception of a technology, name of a technology in their mindset. They don't understand what is going behind it, and they don't realize that whether we can achieve the objective, what we are trying to achieve in a different way as well. That perspective need to be changed. Similarly, I would like to add to the previous question of the gentleman as well. So it is not about, see how you can, don't bother the users. Don't bother user too much. If you bother to them, your service, your impact on the survey will definitely go down, and you will have a bad experience on it. So try to evaluate a technology which can give them a seamless experience by clubbing some of the technologies as well. Now I tell you what we did. When we got into it, we realized that there are certain technologies need to be implemented as well. So, but we can't push. We cannot adopt multiple technologies and start pushing agents on the laptop desktops. If you put too many agents of different technologies on a laptop or a desktop as well, it degrades the experience because it will consume memory, it will consume CPU, and they will eventually not be able to do the operational job for which they have been hired for. So you need to see and adopt technology wisely. That's the reason I said, think over it, don't just go by word, experience the technology before implementing it. We also clubbed multiple things together. Like, to give you an example, before COVID, it was all perimeter. Perimeter was the office network, right? There was firewall, there were router firewalls and other things. When we got into lockdown, we realized that that is not going to work. Everybody has an open internet, but at the same time, being an insurance company, I need to secure customer data as well. How do I do that? So what I did is I clubbed DLP and proxy in one agent itself. I adopted a technology which clubbed both of them. Similarly, we also realized we do not have control on user behavior. It is very important. It is not only about knowing which website a person is accessing. It is about what they are doing when they are going to a particular website. Hence, EDR played a very important role. We clubbed that as well. Now, through one or two clients, I can cater to everything. We embedded encryption in the machine itself. Even if it gets lost, I'm hardly bothered about it because I know that the other person will not be able to decrypt it.
Correct.
So that's how we adopted it.
Absolutely. No, I think this is wonderful, and I could see that there are so many other people who would want to ask questions. Maybe after the panel, you can reach out to the judges. But if I was to just summarize, first of all, I really enjoyed the conversation. We could cover perspectives from leaders of different industries. We had media and entertainment here. We had financial services. We had a fairly vast array of industries being represented here with different dimensions coming through. Few things where the entire panel agreed on. Hybrid work is here. The evolution is going to be much faster, right? So we are in for a journey which is going to just get accelerated. Second is it's a balancing act. So you have to balance the the employee experience, cyber security, and so on. As you mentioned, too tight or too relaxed doesn't cut it. You have to find that Zen moment for yourself when everything works, right? That was the second thing we heard. The third thing we heard is about there's a lot of innovation happening in this space. So we heard about what Shobhit mentioned about the innovation which is happening on the device as a service. We heard about some of the use cases from each one of us, right? In their organizations, what are they doing to actually make this work? We also heard about some of the ethical questions, right? Moonlighting was highlighted, saying, yeah, hybrid work, but is there a downside? Yes. We heard about certain aspects about regulatory dimension. Briefly, indirectly, we could touch saying there are some sectors which have been slightly wary of hybrid work, but now it's coming back online. So the view, I think, which the panel we heard is that this is here and this is the future. So for organizations, it will be very important to sit down and constructively think through what is going to be their hybrid work as well as endpoint management strategy. And to that point, the nuggets of wisdom that we have got from the panel would be very, very useful. And with that, let me thank each of the panelists for their valuable time and their advice which they have shared with all of us. Thank you.